Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Forever Stories. I'm Polly Fletcher, and this is Auntie Florence and Dr. Pepper, and our guest, Katina Wolfe. Hi, Katina.
Hi, how are you?
Great. And so Katina is here with us tonight to share this wonderful connection with one of her fur children. She's had many. Toby had a pack, and to just really share how much Toby influenced their family and their children, and just how he touched their lives.
Yeah.
And also some of the heartache, that you recently share with Katina.
Yes,
Late, in the fall of 2018, both of you really suffered a big loss. It was a time when, Toby's life, came, full completion. And for you with Pancake, your cat,
my cat
came to full completion. And it's so hard, when our fur children have been a part of our life for so long, and then the heartache and the loss and the grief, it's very, very similar and much like, or the same thing as a human. So Katina, welcome again.
Thank you.
And let's just tell us a little bit about this little guy, Toby, in puppy years. Here's Pep. He's also interested.
Well, this is Toby, probably about 12 weeks old when we got him. He came into our lives after about 9 years of our children begging every year, putting it on their Christmas list that they wanted a puppy. And I wasn't opposed to a puppy at all. I just realized that I had to be ready to accept a new member of our family, because I knew I'd be the one to really carry the burden of taking care of the puppy or taking care of the dog as it grew up. The kids were wonderful in sharing with the chores, but I knew it was my responsibility primarily. So after about 9 years, I said, okay, Mom is ready. And we put the word out to some friends, and someone had a coworker who had their lab had puppies. I contacted them, and lo and behold, Toby entered our life.
And so was he your first fur child?
Yes, he was actually the first dog I have ever owned. My husband has had dogs in the past when he was growing up, and so this was also then a big deal for me because it was my first dog also. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and when you are making that commitment, you brought something up that I think is really, really important is, you already have your family, you have kids. The kids are like, yeah, Mom, oh, it's such a great idea.
Yes.
But there's, so many things. What I really, is the takeaway here, Auntie, is the responsibility, right? Absolutely. They're not just, stuffed animals with legs that breathe and eat.
Right.
They have really special needs. And so often, especially, after Christmas or right at Christmas time, there's so many returns of fur kids because people don't realize, that commitment. How did it change your home life, bringing Toby in?
How did it change our life?
Your responsibilities, like getting up in the morning, making sure he got out, got fed.
The morning responsibilities were always mine. The late responsibilities, mine or my husband's if he was home from work. But when the kids were home, if I said feed the dogs or I asked them to walk the dog, they did it. They were very, very good about it. I put the time in, to train him, and then would teach the kids from there. But the kids were great. But you're right, it is a huge responsibility, and you have to be willing to accept it.
Yeah. And you mentioned training. Did you do formal training, or you trained Toby yourself?
No, I went to formal training. I had a friend who had, I guess, her dog was about a year old by the time we got Toby. And she told me about a place where she went, and I took Toby there. We did the puppy classes, then we did the first level and second level of training, which was great. Toby was an amazing dog. He wanted to please. He's smart. He was so easy to train. First time he got everything. It was amazing. We were blessed. I feel like we were blessed because I waited long enough to want the right dog. And so, Toby was wonderful.
Oh, wow. What a great first encounter.
Yes.
And
yes,
that it was.
Absolutely.
And I think that you did, you put some planning into it. It wasn't a knee-jerk response to fulfill an I want. Yeah, sure, the kids had an I want, but you had to be ready, have a plan in place for the best success for the family and for Toby to be a family member that doesn't fall out of the tribe. So many, of the fur kids often fall out of their initial family because, people don't realize that there is a little bit of change.
Yeah. And fortunately, when I made the decision, okay, we're going to get a dog. I have a friend who she had like 4 dogs, some small ones, and then a couple labs. So she actually loaned us one of her Westies on a Saturday, and we got the feel for a small dog in the house. And then she lent us a lab for a Saturday, and we all took care of them and whatever, but got the feel for a bigger dog in the house. And we all determined that a big dog would be just fine. I had reservations, but once I had one in the house, I realized it would be fine.
Yeah.
So from there, then we determined, okay, then we were going to look for a lab or a golden, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a fabulous strategy for people, thinking about, what it takes and what kind of dog can I handle? Is it a bigger dog? Is it a smaller dog? What will suit our lifestyle? And that's also a very important consideration for the success and sustainability of a fur child not falling out of his forever home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
I'm going to go to the next slide, which is one of my my favorites here that I really like. Is so beautiful.
Oh.
I just love this with his brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this with his, how your kids and how he, blended in and just became part of the family.
Well, I mean, from day one, he was just such a lovable puppy, and he wasn't a very high strung. He was very calm and mellow. So I think that also helped to just mold into the family and accept him so quickly, because he never chewed their toys. He never chewed our shoes. He didn't jump on counters. I mean, he was really the ideal dog. And so it was just easy to just love him, play with him. And, the kids just loved him that much. And so this picture here, we took a trip up to Vermont. We have a timeshare. We could not bring him to the timeshare, but we boarded him up there. So he took the ride up with us and everything. But then when we went to pick him up, we brought him back for a little bit because it was snowing. And this was his first snowfall that he got to see. And he loved it.
Wow.
Loved diving in the snow and, actually doing snow angels, rolling on his back and everything. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, wonderful. And you brought something up here that is really interesting to me, is that, you talked about that you weren't able to have him in the timeshare and that you had to board him. And it's really interesting, you fast forward about 10 years and now we have provisions for making our animals, our fur children, emotional support animals, so that it could be an option if it's something that you qualify for. But it is a big concern of parents, like, what happens when I travel? Can I feel safe and comfortable with boarding? And what happens there when you feel like he has to go somewhere else and not with you?
Right.
Well, when we got Toby, we were living in a suburb in Connecticut. So, and I mean, he came into our lives in 2003. So there dog walkers really weren't as popular as they are now. So honestly, the only option we had was to leave him in a kennel if we were to go away. And so I made sure I went to every kennel, I inspected them, I interviewed them so that I could feel comfortable that I was leaving him with the right people in the right place.
Yeah.
And, you know,
and it is a heartache for all of us, you know. It is that big that big, like, oh my gosh, and I have a situation coming up in March, and Pepper and I have never been really separated. He is an emotional support dog, but I have an event for work in which last year I came home every night, but it was such a hardship taking the train at midnight, trying to catch the last train and then get the first train in the morning out to the western part of the state. And so this year, the request is we want everybody to stay at the hotel. Technically I could bring him as an emotional support dog, but the second piece of that is that it's sort of an interference for me to be able to concentrate with my work. And I think, everybody, every mother and father of a fur child goes through, this dilemma.
Yeah. The first time I left him was so difficult, but when I picked him up, he was happy. And so I knew inside that was the appropriate place. There have been kennels every so often that I've picked him up and said, nope, things didn't go that right. He's not happy, and would never go back there again.
And what is it that you can tell in their body language to know when it was a good experience or not a good experience? Because people may look at like, well, how is it that you can figure that out with your dog? They don't speak, our human language. So how did you figure that out?
Well, if they come out wagging their tail, they're happy to see you. They're not anxious to run out the door. Toby could always have a smile on his face. And so, I mean, you could just, I could just tell, we could just tell. But it's just how he'd interact with us. And if he shook his little body, you knew he was happy. Right. And if not, I just knew he was stressed and I wouldn't go back there.
Yeah. I think this is just so important to share because, for people considering getting their first fur child, you don't sometimes think about some of these things. So I think it's just so valuable that you're sharing your experience with your fur child, Toby, and to make it really successful all the way around.
I don't know if this also helps, but somehow well, since after Toby, we then got 2 other dogs, and I always felt like I had a connection with all of them, that I could talk to them and they could look at me and I could understand them. Like a dog whisperer. I really, I don't mean to brag. I just feel like I had that connection with them to understand them if they were happy or not.
Yeah. And, Auntie, you and I talk a lot. Like, Pepper communicates with us with his body language, bringing a toy, like what he wants to play with, like, Mom, it's time to get off your devices, get off the computer. Right. He makes things known about his needs, his happiness. And they're quite intuitive.
Yes, they are. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the other thing, it's important to know, like, we didn't just treat him like a dog or a pet. I mean, he was part of our family. He became a person. He just became another person in our family. And I think that's important. We watched TV. We made sure he was there on the floor, on the sofa with us. We went for walks. He was with us. Yeah. Or went for outing. We go cut Christmas trees every year. Toby and then the other dogs subsequently came with us. They're part of the family.
Yeah, and I think that is the distinction right there, and this isn't to have any judgment by any means, but there was a post not too long ago that said, do you talk to your pet, right? And so many people responded. Usually you see these like little quotes and nobody responds. They just put a thumbs up or a heart. There were absolutely, he is a person.
Absolutely.
We treat him like a person.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
True.
I want to share these other pictures of Toby. I know this is with your second dog.
Yes, Kelso.
Kelso.
Yeah.
Let me just go back a little bit because that when you were talking about you were talking a little bit about the treating him as a person. Here he is. You know, I know I give a birthday party for Pepper, but you know, here he is, his own birthday, like the kids.
Yeah.
Every year, all our dogs would have their birthday parties with a hat, a cake, or an ice cream cake and a candle. And ironically, the thing about Toby was wonderful. He associated the word happy birthday with his birthday and getting a cup of ice cream. And if you said happy birthday, even if it wasn't his birthday, he just wiggled his butt and wagged his tail and just got so excited. He knew what that meant.
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we let a year go by that we didn't celebrate their birthdays.
Yeah.
And Toby and Kenzie, their birthdays are only a week apart, but each had their own birthday.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, how is it like having 3 dogs? You know, you started, Toby was your first dog. You didn't have a dog. And then all of a sudden your family grew to 6 kids.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true. So a year after
3 human kids and 3 fur children.
That's right. So a year after we got Toby, both he and I that first winter actually gained a lot of weight. We didn't go out. We didn't walk a lot. And I'm like, and he was very mellow. And I said, you know, I think you need a playmate. And so as a family, we decided to get another dog. And the place where I had been training Toby, the trainer had a client who had just they had golden puppies. So we went to see them, fell in love with them. And, you know, how can you not fall in love with a golden puppy? And decided to bring Kelso into our lives.
Wow. And Kelso, Kelso was a golden.
He's a golden, yep. And you just see literally almost a year younger than Toby. And at first, Toby was a little anxious, a little shy. Kelso was more active and high strung until he calmed down after about year 2 or 3. So at first it's not that they didn't get along, but they just coexisted. And then they became really good friends.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the trainer.
And you had the 3 of them, because you still have Kinsey there in the background. Yeah. How were the 3 of them together, like managing the 3 fur children? No
problem whatsoever. One, because she's a lot smaller than the 2 of them. And there were times when both Toby and Kelso were younger and stronger. It was hard to walk them, and you had to find the right collar, leashes, and everything. Fortunately, where we lived, we had an open space in front of our house and 3 beaches in our town and a lake. So at certain times of the year, they could run off leash, which was great exercise for them. So I want to go to that picture because I know that that's a really special picture for you. Hold on here for a second. There we go.
Oh.
There we go. They love the beach. They would run and run up and down. Kenzie chases birds. You could throw rocks or balls. They had a blast. And honestly, I think our dogs were always in such good shape because I not only walked them, but they were able to run off leash and get all that exercise.
And that's really important, really, for their well-being.
Yes.
You know, when we consider, you know, bringing in, you know, fur children and really understanding what their requirements are for stimulation and exercise and enrichment.
Exactly. I mean, especially for Toby. I mean, Toby, he lived to be 15 and a half years old. That's a long time for a lab.
Wow.
And for
that is
who never had a single problem. No knee issues, no hip issues. Only age affected that. And that really started to come into play at around year 14. So honestly, I attribute all the exercise we gave them to keeping them so healthy.
Oh, yes.
And how old is he here in this picture, Katina?
Here he's 15 and a half. This is
Wow.
like 3 months before he passed away.
Oh,
Oh,
looks
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He was so beautiful. I
Beautiful.
always, remember him with Kinsey and
Yeah.
Pepper, and there were some changes that you had to make in your lifestyle around making sure that, as he was aging, what were some of those things that you had to then make adjustments for him to continue to have a good quality of life and be successful? Because I know that you were walking both him and his sister Kinsey, and he was walking a little bit differently, and she was more spry, and all the other issues that kind of come along with that.
Well, so we moved from Connecticut to Boston in July of 2017. So it was right before our move, let's say 6 months before our move, that we did notice it was harder for Toby to go upstairs because our house was on a hill. So you had to always go up the stairs, so then we started to walk him up the hill and around the backyard so that it was a little bit easier on his hips. Then when we came to the city, but then we always had the backyard. But then when we came to the city, the adjustment was we had no more backyard, and he was limited to space and had to get used to waiting to go down an elevator and always walk on a leash. I'd never let him off leash around here at all. No
worries.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. I'll just have to hang up on my brother. That's okay. So for Toby, it was hard. It was really, I don't know. I think he felt like he lost his independence kind of thing. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. And so from these pictures here, it was really adorable because as we moved into the apartment, the rug that he's sleeping on was from our front foyer. And as soon as I rolled it out, he went and laid down. I'm like, oh my God, Toby feels like he's already at home. It really was touching. It really was. And then a couple mornings later after we moved in, the second picture is Toby looking out the window. He used to look out our back door, but now he was looking out the window, almost like he wanted to go out, but he couldn't, kind of thing. And there he is, on his bed, and the third picture, he just always liked to look out the window. I don't know what he looked at or saw, but he just enjoyed that.
Yeah. Pep does too. We live in a high rise, and so to really get the window action and the door is solid. I often do wonder and worry a little bit about him, because I really think that by being able to look out the window is engaging. They're watching. It's they're getting some sort of stimulus. And when we're in a high rise, our window starts in the air with other buildings, and there's nothing really on the ground, and he can't get access to that. And he loves to sit in the lobby. Sometimes I think he wants to go for a walk, but what he really wants to do is sit down in the lobby, right? Auntie, remember in the summer we would sit down in the lobby, and he wanted to see everybody coming and going.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So some of the difficulties that we had though when we moved here, as you mentioned, walking the two dogs, when you'd see me, my husband and I almost felt like we were on stretchers because Toby was slow and Kenzie was fast. So we were being stretched. And so when we first moved here, I could walk all the way down to the Boston Common with him. But over time, I was just limited to our little complex here. That's about all he could do.
And how did that impact Kinsey? Where she was much more spry. She wanted to go maybe on her longer walks or be much more active.
She was patient. I have to admit, she was patient. And then the way we adjusted for it is I would always take the two of them out, let Toby do his thing. And then if I had the ability, I would take her out separately, or whenever I go shopping, take her with me. Or go running so she could get her exercise in that way.
Sure.
Yeah. That makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And, Toby also, what were some of the old aging signs that the decline that you started to notice with him where you would have to make adjustments?
Well, the first was the hips. They were becoming arthritic. And so there was, a little bit of pain in there for him. And we tried all different kind of medication. I didn't want to over medicate him, but I wanted to keep him comfortable. So we struck a good accord on that. I have a wonderful vet here. And so we started doing laser treatment on his hips.
Yeah.
And at first we did it like 3 times a week because there's a cumulative effect. And then I went to once a week. And for a while I noticed a difference. I could notice that for like 3-4 days, he could walk better, had a little pep in his stride. But then after a while, I didn't notice much difference, so we stopped the laser treatment. But through the whole thing, we actually cut back most of his medication. He never seemed to be in pain. It was just hard for him to get up. And that was the first sign, was the legs and the rear legs. Then we started to have accidents in the house because he couldn't tell us quick enough that he needed to go out, or we weren't home all the time. And so then another big adjustment was, as long as I was around, or even if I wasn't, I made sure that there was someone here to take him out like every 3 hours, so that to avoid some of those mistakes. But then at night, we couldn't avoid it all the time too.
Right.
And then, and as you know, in an apartment, it's hard. Like, I'm on the 10th floor. I have to get him in the elevator, get him downstairs. If an older dog needs to go, they need to go. So we had accidents in the halls and the foyers. And so then, in order to not embarrass anybody anymore, I started to use doggy diapers on him just to get him out of the apartment. But that's the point where I'm like, what kind of quality of life are we really giving him at this stage?
Yeah. And then that goes into the next really hard gut-wrenching decision. And you already had gone through it with Kelso, even though it was really different than Toby, because you were telling me Kelso got ill.
Yes.
And it was much quicker. It wasn't like the long duration of aging that you went through with Toby. But can you share with us a little bit about, I know that that's really hard to bring up again. And I hope that this is a really beautiful and loving, memorial and honoring Toby's life. But I think, all of us want to share, and, you want to kind of be prepared or not prepared, but it is, for children parents. And I know Auntie, we went for a year and a half back and forth. Right. Auntie was concerned. Is it pancakes time? Oh, she didn't eat today. Oh, she's a little bit more lethargic. Right. Should I do it today? And you did that for a year and a half.
Year and a half. Absolutely.
I was more concerned probably the last 3-4 months, like when was going to be the right time. The vet always said, he coached me, like, you want to kind of do it more sooner than later, just because it's just harder for them, or, and still giving them a good quality of life. I was waiting for some signs. Other friends had their dogs pass away. Maybe he was going to stop eating. That would be a classic sign for me. Well, Toby never stopped eating because food. Another classic sign for me was going to be the day he couldn't stand up on his own at all. Now, he was having some difficulty, but it would take him time. But we didn't have to use a harness or anything like that. So, I kept waiting and waiting. But there was just the one day. We went out in the morning, we came back after his walk, and it was a cold, rainy Monday, I remember it, and he just slept all day. And I would go over to him, and I would try to wake him up, and he wouldn't wake up, and it literally went the whole day like that. And I talked to him, and I felt like he was talking to me, like this was it. He told me. He did. Yeah. And I called him that afternoon, and we talked about it. And just decided that, the next day was going to be the right day. So it was him. I waited, and he just told me in a different way, but he told me.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and Katina, you were listening. You had such a bond. You know, he was your child. He was part of your family. You knew you had communication with him.
Yes.
You know, and I think that if you haven't owned, I don't mean owned. That's such a I don't mean that word. If you don't have a fur child in your family, it might be hard to understand that form of communication. I think you only get it when they are such an integral. They are a family member.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for, I know that was heartbreaking to kind of have to bring that up. What a sweet, lovely, wonderful pup. And, this is just such an honor for you to come and, memorialize his legacy and his story, and to just share it with other, fur parents, or, people thinking that they want to be fur parents.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the most beautiful thing is we put him down on Tuesday afternoon, and then as my husband and I were driving home, it was amazing. There was a rainbow right in the sky.
Oh, wow.
It was meant to be. It was perfect. It was
Wow.
And that he was telling you, Mom, it's time.
I crossed over on with Kelso. Yep. So yeah, I know. It's beautiful. It's miss him every day, but we gave him the best life. We really did.
Yeah.
So
can I mention when I wrote that poem?
Yes.
I had planned one of the lines. I had planned to say, "Look up to the sky, look for the rainbow." And I didn't use the word rainbow. And now that I think about it, I should have.
Wow.
Well, you can write it a little bit before I do the final copy. Hey,
okay.
Let's share this poem with
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Auntie, let me get Pep and
Okay.
Yes. Oh.
Auntie, where's your little man?
Is he hiding under the school? Oh, he's with Daddy.
Is he with Dad?
Probably with Daddy. Yeah, watch yourself. He's following his daddy.
You gotta read the poem with Auntie.
Okay, we have to read this poem.
Just this poem.
Yeah, then you can go play. We got to do it together.
You and Auntie always read the poems.
Yes.
There he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
Is everybody ready?
We're ready.
Ready.
Mummy, we should have a talk. I really miss our long walks. Not to worry. I will follow you wherever you go. I will always be at your side and will ever be your guide. Our love was so strong. It was an unbelievable bond. But you must continue on. Once in a while, whisper to me. I certainly will be close by. Look up to the sky.
See the rainbow.
And let the tears roll by. Oh, perfect.
That'll be perfect.
Perfect.
That is just wonderful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we see
Thank you.
Miss Kinsey?
Sure. Kenzie, come here, baby. Come here. Come here. Look.
Adorable.
This is Toby's sister, Kinsey.
Yeah, no.
You're here. Look at you.
Look at Peppa.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pep, there's
So
your
believe it or not, when Kenzie came into our lives, she really bonded more closely with Kelso. But then when Kelso left us, she just bonded immediately with Toby.
oh.
They'd all sit together sometimes, the three of them on one bed. It was amazing. Amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Now,
story.
did they sleep with you guys? Would they crawl up in your bed and sleep with you?
No, amazingly, we always crated our dogs every night. For many reasons. My husband had to leave at 5:30 in the morning every day for work and didn't want three dogs jumping all over him. Plus, Toby and Kelso shed, so
Oh,
hair on the suit. But they never complained. They went right in every night. They had their routine. Their crates were all side by side, and it was fine. Now Kenzie does sleep by our bed, but that's only because we moved to the apartment.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So
Get a little, yeah.
Oh, Katina,
Pepper.
thank you so much
Thank
for
you so
sharing
much. This was so wonderful. I
Thank
the
really
you.
story.
enjoyed
Yes.
doing this and talking to you.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
just show our last, it's our feature goodbye slide that
Okay.
we show here. I'm just going to kind of go back to our poem.
Oh.
But this is how we say goodbye to everybody. Running with the Pack,
Yeah.
and our forever stories and our poetry slams are really about joy, love, comfort, fun,
True.
laughter, compassion, and community. And to all of our viewers, share with us. Are you a fur mom and dad? And do you have just one fur child or more? Let us know, and we'd love to feature you here on our Forever Stories.
Absolutely. Yep.
Wonderful.
Bye for now.
Bye bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Okay.
Don't forget to record, right? Bye. Bye.
Bye.